The 7 levels of heroes without superpowers in comics explain. Level 1, Tech-Reliant Heroes. Falcon. Sam Wilson represents the foundational tier of non-powered heroism where technology serves as the primary enabler of superheroic capability. As the Falcon, Sam relies entirely on his Exo-7 Falcon wingsuit, originally a Stark Industries prototype and later upgraded with Wakandan technology to achieve flight and combat effectiveness. Without his wings, Sam possesses excellent hand-to-hand combat training from his partnership with Captain America and military experience, but he fundamentally depends on external hardware to operate at superhero level. His telepathic connection to birds, introduced in Captain America number 174 through the Cosmic Cube, technically qualifies as a superpower, but the MCU wisely omitted this ability, cementing Sam as a pure tech-reliant hero whose greatest asset is his courage and tactical thinking rather than inherent ability. Sam's journey to becoming Captain America in both comics and the MCU demonstrates that heroism transcends physical enhancement, yet his reliance on technology remains constant even after taking up the shield. In the comics storyline United We Stand from All New Captain America by Rick Remender and Stuart Immonen, Sam struggles with living up to Steve Rogers' legacy precisely because he lacks the super soldier serum's advantages. His wings become not just tools but symbols of his unique approach to the Captain America mantle, proving that leadership, determination, and tactical brilliance matter more than raw power. However, this tech dependency also represents vulnerability. Damage his wings mid-flight, and Falcon becomes grounded instantly. Unlike heroes with training or intellect that can't be stripped away, Sam Wilson embodies the idea that anyone can be a hero with the right tools and mindset, but also highlights how much modern heroism depends on access to advanced technology that most people will never possess. Shuri. Shuri epitomizes the tech genius who compensates for lack of physical superpowers through intellectual superiority and access to the world's most advanced resources. As Princess of Wakanda and head of the Wakandan Design Group, Shuri has designed weapons, aircraft, communication systems, and defensive technology that surpass anything available elsewhere on Earth. Her vibranium gauntlets can fire kinetic blasts, her armor provides protection beyond Kevlar, and her inventions have saved lives across the Marvel Universe. In the comics, she eventually consumed the heart-shaped herb and became a Black Panther herself with enhanced abilities. But her MCU iteration deliberately maintains her as a purely non-powered genius whose contribution comes through innovation rather than physical enhancement. Remove her laboratory, her Wakandan resources, and her vibranium stockpile, and Shuri's combat effectiveness drops dramatically compared to trained fighters higher on this list. In Black Panther, World of Wakanda, by Roxane Gay, Ta-Nehisi Coates, and Aletha Martinez, Shuri's brilliance shines in technological problem-solving, but when forced into direct combat without preparation, she struggles against opponents with superior martial training. Her genius is undeniable. She's reverse-engineered alien technology, improved upon Tony Stark's designs, and created innovations that redefined modern warfare. Yet heroism for Shuri means being in the right place with the right equipment rather than possessing inherent abilities that travel with her anywhere. This doesn't diminish her importance. Technology-based heroes like Shuri prove that brain power matters as much as any superpower, but it does mean that her effectiveness scales directly with her access to resources. Level 2, Brutal Combatants. Elektra. Elektra Natchios, first appearing in Daredevil number 168 in January 1981, represents the evolution from tech reliance to weaponized physical skill, where brutal efficiency and lethal training define heroism's darker edge. Trained by the ancient ninja organization known as the Chaste, and later corrupted by their evil counterpart the Hand, Elektra mastered every martial art available, specializing in assassination techniques that prioritize killing efficiently over theatrical combat. Her signature twin Psy aren't technological marvels, but extensions of her own lethality, simple, reliable weapons that require phenomenal skill to wield effectively. Unlike heroes who hesitate to kill, Elektra operates in moral gray areas where mercy is weakness and hesitation means death, making her brutal effectiveness both her greatest strength and her tragic flaw. Elektra excels in scenarios she controls, ambushes, surprise attacks, environments she's prepared, but struggles when forced into prolonged open combat against multiple skilled opponents. Her training emphasizes killing quickly rather than sustaining extended fights, meaning she operates best as a scalpel rather than a hammer. The Elektra Assassin limited series by Frank Miller and Bill Sienkiewicz showcased her at peak brutality, taking down highly trained operatives through combinations of stealth, psychological warfare, and overwhelming violence. However, her effectiveness diminishes in scenarios requiring non-lethal solutions or prolonged defensive combat, where her assassination instincts become limitations rather than advantages. Elektra proves that brutal training and willingness to kill create formidable warriors, but specialization in lethality doesn't automatically translate to versatility in all combat scenarios. Punisher. Frank Castle, first appearing in The Amazing Spider-Man number 129 in February 1974, takes the brutal combatant archetype to its absolute extreme. The Punisher possesses no superpowers, just extensive Marine Force recon training, encyclopedic weapons knowledge, and a psychological break that removed his capacity for mercy toward criminals. He's mastered every firearm, explosive, and close-quarters combat technique available to special forces, then applied them with sociopathic efficiency toward his one-man war on crime. Where other heroes show restraint, Castle shows ruthlessness. Where others seek redemption for villains, he seeks body counts. In Garth Ennis's Punisher Max run, particularly the Slavers storyline, Castle operates at peak effectiveness, using military tactics, prepared positions, and overwhelming firepower to systematically eliminate criminal organizations. He's survived encounters with superhuman opponents through preparation and weaponry, as shown when he killed Wolverine in Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe by luring him into a trap and running him over with a steamroller. However, strip away Castle's preparation time and arsenal, force him into unarmed combat against elite martial artists, and his effectiveness drops. He's an exceptional soldier and killer, but he's not the best fighter, not the best strategist, and not the best detective. His superpower is being willing to do what others won't: torture, mass murder, psychological warfare, which makes him terrifying, but doesn't make him technically superior to heroes who've achieved higher levels of combat mastery. Level 3, Acrobatic Specialists. Hawkeye. Clint Barton, created by Stan Lee and Don Heck, first appearing in Tales of Suspense number 57 in September 1964, exemplifies the acrobatic specialist tier where circus performer agility combines with impossible marksmanship to create combat effectiveness that borders on superhuman, despite being purely trained skill. Hawkeye's backstory as a carnival performer trained by swordsman and trickshot gave him Olympic-level acrobatics before he ever picked up a bow seriously. His ability to fire accurately while flipping through the air, hanging upside down, or falling from buildings transforms archery from distance weapon into dynamic combat art. The Matt Fraction and David Aja run, Hawkeye showcased Clint at his most human, injured, exhausted, outgunned, yet still capable of impossible shots that defy physics and probability. His specialty transcends mere marksmanship into battlefield control through creativity and positioning. Hawkeye demonstrated his trick arrow arsenal in The Avengers number 2 and 23. Explosive arrows, grappling arrows, EMP arrows, sonic arrows, and dozens more specialized projectiles that give him tactical options for virtually any scenario. His acrobatic training means he can reach vantage points other heroes can't access, maintain aim while in motion, and reposition faster than opponents anticipate. However, Hawkeye's limitations become apparent against opponents who close distance quickly or in environments where maneuverability is restricted. He's not a hand-to-hand master like fighters in higher tiers. In close quarters without room to flip or distance to shoot, his effectiveness drops dramatically. His perfect accuracy gives him offense, and his agility gives him defense, but he lacks the comprehensive martial arts training that would make him dominant in all ranges. Nightwing. Dick Grayson, created by Bill Finger, Bob Kane, and Jerry Robinson in Detective Comics number 38 in April 1940, stands as the definitive acrobatic hero whose circus background as part of the Flying Graysons transformed into the foundation for one of DC's most skilled, non-powered combatants. Where Hawkeye uses acrobatics to enable marksmanship, Nightwing weaponizes aerial grace itself, making his movement simultaneously his defense, offense, and signature style. Trained by Batman from childhood, Dick combined his natural acrobatic genius with Gotham's brutal martial arts education, creating a fighting style that emphasizes momentum, unpredictability, and three-dimensional combat. His trademark Eskrima sticks aren't just weapons, but tools that extend his reach during flips, generate striking power through centrifugal force, and double as grappling. Implements mid-motion. The Nightwing run by Chuck Dixon and Scott McDaniel established Dick as someone who could defeat opponents stronger and more brutal than himself purely through superior movement and adaptability. Unlike Batman's methodical brutality or trained soldiers' systematic approaches, Nightwing flows, turning opponents' strength against them, using environment for momentum, and maintaining offensive pressure through constant positional changes that prevent enemies from setting up attacks. His acrobatic mastery means he can fight effectively while upside down, mid-flip, or rebounding off walls, expanding his combat effectiveness into spatial dimensions most fighters never utilize. However, while his movement is superior to almost any non-powered hero, his detective skills lag behind Batman. His strategic thinking hasn't reached tactical operative levels, and his martial arts mastery, while exceptional, isn't quite at the elite tier. Level 4, Elite Fighters. Green Arrow. Oliver Queen evolved from a Batman clone into one of DC's most politically conscious and martially skilled archers. While often compared to Hawkeye, Green Arrow distinguishes himself through his training in multiple martial arts disciplines beyond archery, including extensive hand-to-hand combat instruction that makes him dangerous even without his bow. The Dennis O'Neil and Neil Adams run in Green Lantern Green Arrow transformed Oliver from simple crime fighter into a street-level warrior whose boxing training, combined with self-taught guerrilla tactics from his years stranded on a deserted island, created a fighting style that blends precision archery with brutal close-quarters effectiveness. His battlefield versatility and hard-won combat wisdom define his effectiveness. In Green Arrow, The Longbow Hunters by Mike Grell, Oliver is pushed beyond his comfort zone, forced to kill for the first time, and confront that his trick arrows and heroic idealism aren't always sufficient against true evil. This maturation process showcased an archer who had mastered not just shooting, but tactics, ambush placement, escape route planning, reading criminal psychology, and adapting to losing equipment mid-fight. Unlike pure specialists, Green Arrow can function effectively if disarmed, using environmental weapons, improvised tools, or bare-handed combat when necessary. His training in judo, boxing, and street fighting makes him formidable in close quarters, though not at the master level of dedicated martial artists. Daredevil. Matt Murdock occupies a controversial position in any heroes without superpowers discussion, because his radar sense, gained from the same accident that blinded him, arguably constitutes a superpower. However, if we isolate his martial arts training, legal brilliance, and physical conditioning from his enhanced senses, Matt represents perhaps the most accomplished hand-to-hand combatant among heroes who built their skills purely through training rather than serum enhancement. Trained by Stick in the ancient martial art of the Chaste, the same organization that trained Elektra, Daredevil mastered a fighting style that emphasizes pressure points, defensive counters, and using opponents' strength against them. Perfect for someone who must overcome size and strength disadvantages through superior technique. The Frank Miller run in Daredevil, particularly the Born Again storyline, showcased Matt pushed to absolute breaking point, beaten, broken, stripped of his identity and resources, yet still capable of defeating Wilson Fisk's entire criminal empire through sheer determination and superior fighting skill. His martial arts training is so comprehensive that even without his radar sense, he would remain one of Marvel's most dangerous hand-to-hand combatants. His training includes not just offense, but meditation techniques for pain management, flexibility training that allows impossible dodges and timing, precision that lets him defeat armed opponents empty-handed. In Mark Waid's Daredevil, Matt uses his legal mind in combat, applying logical analysis to predict opponent patterns and exploit psychological weakness. Black Widow. Natasha Romanoff represents the absolute pinnacle of what government-sponsored training programs can produce in a human being without actual biological enhancement. Though her comic book history includes a Soviet version of the super soldier serum that slows her aging, her core combat skills remain purely trained rather than powered. As a graduate of the Red Room's brutal training program, Natasha mastered espionage, assassination, infiltration, psychology, seduction, disguise, and over 30 martial arts disciplines before her defection to S.H.I.E.L.D. Unlike heroes who specialize in one combat range or style, Black Widow operates with equal lethality at distance, mid-range, or close quarters, using firearms, her signature Widow's Bite electrical gauntlets, throwing weapons, or bare hands depending on tactical requirements. The Black Widow, the Name of the Rose storyline, showcased Natasha's true capability, functioning independently in hostile territory without backup, adapting to constantly changing missions, and completing objectives through combinations of combat skill, psychological manipulation, and strategic thinking. Her experience diversity sets her apart. She's operated in every combat environment imaginable across decades of missions, learning from each one. In combat, she synthesizes multiple martial arts fluidly, transitioning from Aikido throws to Krav Maga strikes to capoeira acrobatics without pause, creating unpredictability that confuses even skilled opponents. Her training in ballet gives her balance and grace that enhances combat effectiveness, while her espionage background means she reads opponents psychologically, identifying exploitable fears or hesitations mid-fight. Level 5. Tactical Operatives. The question: Vic Sage represents the intellectual evolution of street-level heroism where investigative brilliance and philosophical depth matter as much as physical capability. Operating in Hub City, one of DC's most corrupt urban hellscapes, the question approaches crime fighting as an exercise in uncovering truth, rather than simply punching criminal. His faceless mask isn't just intimidation, but symbolism. He represents objectivity, the removal of identity from investigation, the pursuit of answers without personal bias. Trained in martial arts by Richard Dragon, one of DC's greatest fighters, Vic possesses combat skills sufficient to handle multiple opponents, but his real weapon is his mind, the ability to connect disparate clues, infiltrate organizations through investigative journalism, and dismantle criminal enterprises by exposing them rather than just fighting them. The legendary Dennis O'Neil run on The Question redefined the character into a Zen detective whose pursuit of truth became spiritual journey. This version of The Question studies philosophy, practices meditation, and approaches each case as a puzzle requiring intellectual solution backed by physical enforcement when necessary. His systematic methodology sets him apart. He doesn't react to crimes, he investigates root causes, identifies power structures, and dismantles systems. His adoption of protege Renee Montoya, who eventually became The Second Question, demonstrated his understanding that heroism requires mentorship and succession planning, strategic thinking beyond individual action. However, The Question's limited resources compared to Billionaire, his focus on single-city operations rather than global threats, and his preference for investigation over proactive planning prevent him from reaching the genius tactician tier. Winter Soldier, James Buchanan. Bucky Barnes represents what happens when elite combat training combines with decades of forced operational experience and strategic deprogramming from brainwashing. Unlike other tactical operatives who learned their skills through willing service, Bucky's expertise came through trauma. Captured by Hydra after his apparent death in 1945, brainwashed into becoming the Soviet Union's greatest assassin, then spending 70 years in cryogenic sleep between missions that made him a ghost story among intelligence agencies. His training encompasses every combat innovation from World War II through the modern era, making him a living archive of tactical evolution, who can employ strategies from any decade with equal effectiveness. His operational thinking developed through countless covert missions separates him from mere elite fighters. In the Winter Soldier ongoing series by Ed Brubaker and Butch Gweiss, Bucky operates independently on Black Ops missions too dirty for official heroes, using combinations of infiltration, assassination, espionage, and psychological warfare that most heroes won't employ. His cybernetic left arm, a gift from his Soviet handlers, provides enhanced strength that makes him more formidable in hand-to-hand combat, but it's his tactical mind that makes him truly dangerous. Bucky plans missions accounting for dozens of variables, maintains backup plans for his backup plans, and operates effectively whether leading teams or working solo. His deprogramming from brainwashing and subsequent work to atone for his actions as Winter Soldier gave him unique psychological resilience. He's faced his absolute worst self and rebuilt from it, making him mentally unbreakable in ways most heroes never experience. Level 6. Genius Tacticians. Moon Knight. Mark Spector occupies a unique position as a hero whose greatest assets are his fractured psyche and the tactical advantages his dissociative identity disorder provides. Assuming we interpret his multiple personalities as psychological condition, rather than literal possession by the Egyptian moon god Khonshu. As a former Marine, CIA, operative, and mercenary, Mark possesses extensive combat training and operational experience, but his evolution into Moon Knight introduced three distinct personas: Stephen Grant, billionaire businessman providing resources; Jake Lockley, cab driver gathering street-level intelligence; and Mark Spector, the warrior. This system of identities allows Moon Knight to approach problems from multiple strategic angles simultaneously, gathering information through Stephen's corporate connections, Jake's street network, and Mark's violent enforcement. The Jeff Lemire and Greg Smallwood run in Moon Knight explored Mark's psychology as weapon rather than weakness, showing how his different identities provide tactical flexibility that single-minded heroes lack. He can infiltrate high society as Stephen, gather intelligence in criminal underworlds as Jake, then execute as Mark, all while his unpredictability confuses opponents who can't predict which persona will respond to any situation. Unlike heroes whose mental health issues compromise effectiveness, Moon Knight weaponizes his condition, using it to create strategic depth. His willingness to absorb damage other heroes would avoid, combined with pain tolerance that borders on inhuman, allows combat strategies built around endurance and psychological intimidation. However, Moon Knight's mental instability also creates limitations. His personas sometimes conflict, His relationship with Khonshu complicates decision-making, and his tactics often prioritize brutal directness over subtle planning. Mr. Terrific. Michael Holt represents the pinnacle of what pure intellectual superiority can achieve in superheroism. Described as the third smartest person on Earth after Lex Luthor and Batman, Mr. Terrific holds 14 PhDs, competes as an Olympic decathlete, and masters new skills with seemingly superhuman speed, though the comics are careful to establish that his abilities come from dedication and genius rather than meta-human enhancement. His Fair Play jacket contains T-spheres, hovering technological marvels he invented that provide reconnaissance, offense, defense, hacking, and communication, making him a one-man tactical command center. Unlike tech-reliant heroes who depend on equipment, Mr. Terrific created his own technology from scratch and can rebuild or reconfigure it on the fly. The JSA run showcased Mr. Terrific as the team's tactical coordinator, using his analytical ability to create battle plans that maximize every hero's strengths while minimizing weakness. His ability to master virtually any skill through study and practice means he's not just intelligent but adaptable, learning new martial arts overnight, mastering alien technology through analysis, and solving problems other geniuses consider impossible. His T-spheres can combine in different configurations for different tactical needs, from forming shields to creating holographic duplicates to functioning as offensive weapons, all controlled through his mental commands. However, while he's one of Earth's greatest minds, he hasn't quite achieved the perfect synthesis of resources, experience, and comprehensive mastery that defines ultimate human perfection. His tactical thinking is exceptional, but reactive rather than proactive compared to heroes who shape situations before enemies act. Level 7. Ultimate Human Perfection. Batman. Bruce Wayne represents the theoretical maximum of what human dedication, resources, intellect, and training can achieve without actual superpowers, though at this point, Batman's capabilities strain credulity so far that peak human becomes effectively superhuman through sheer accumulated excellence. Trained by every martial arts master willing to teach him, educated in every detective technique available, possessing virtually unlimited wealth through Wayne Enterprises, and driven by trauma-forged determination that borders on obsession, Batman has transformed himself into the perfect synthesis of fighter, detective, tactician, scientist, and strategist. His decades of publication history across thousands of comics have established that, given preparation time, Batman can defeat literally anyone, including Superman, Darkseid, and the entire Justice League simultaneously. His comprehensive perfection across all domains separates him from every other hero on this list. In combat, he's mastered 127 martial arts according to various sources, and can defeat opponents like Lady Shiva or Ra's al Ghul who have centuries of experience. As a detective, his deductive reasoning rivals Sherlock Holmes, able to solve impossibly complex mysteries through analysis others miss. Strategically, his contingency planning became legendary through Tower of Babel in JLA, revealing he'd secretly developed methods to neutralize every Justice League member in case they went rogue. His technology, while funded by his wealth, is personally designed and constantly improved, giving him tactical options for virtually any scenario. Batman, Year One by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli established his brutal effectiveness even as a beginner, while decades of subsequent stories showed his evolution into someone who can outthink gods, outfight demons, and outplan cosmic threats through pure human excellence, maximized to impossible heights. Iron Man. Tony Stark, first appearing in Tales of Suspense number 39 in March 1963, achieves ultimate human perfection through a different path than Batman. Where Bruce represents perfection through training and discipline, Tony represents perfection through genius intellect, weaponized through technology. With an IQ that places him among Earth's smartest humans, engineering capabilities that revolutionized multiple industries, and the resources of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, Tony created the Iron Man armor in a cave with scraps, then spent decades improving it into technology that can challenge gods, aliens, and cosmic entities. Unlike tech-reliant heroes who use equipment others created, Tony is the technology, constantly inventing, upgrading, and redesigning his armor to counter every new threat he encounters. His ability to solve impossible problems through innovation under pressure defines his placement at this tier. In Armor Wars, Tony systematically hunted down everyone using his stolen technology, showcasing both his tactical ruthlessness and his ability to outthink and outbuild other genius engineers. His creation of the Extremis armor merged man and machine at the biological level, demonstrating that he could literally evolve himself through technology. Without the armor, Tony retains genius-level intellect, combat training from his years as an Avenger, strategic thinking from leading teams, and the confidence to negotiate with world leaders or stare down Thanos verbally. His alcoholism, depicted famously in Demon in a Bottle, represents his greatest vulnerability, a reminder that even genius has limits and that human weakness persists regardless of technological advancement. However, Tony's ability to overcome his demons, rebuild from nothing multiple times, and continue innovating despite repeated failures demonstrates the psychological resilience that separates ultimate perfection from mere excellence. If you enjoyed ranking these powerless heroes from tech-dependent warriors to ultimate human specimens who prove that dedication, intellect, and training can rival any superpower, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next deep dive into comic book excellence.